So
So
what's your area that you're in there? You
it's
said
North Texas, but North Fort Worth. It's off
okay.
of the
Well, I'm down here by
I-35.
Crockett, so I'm not. I'm a few hours away.
Yeah, okay, yeah. It's North Fort Worth. My boundaries go up all the way to the Denton County line. So it is the North Tarrant area.
Okay, I spoke to a candidate from Denton County.
Okay,
So interesting. Okay,
awesome.
that's kind of cool.
So
So
my
yeah, I
why, yes. So again, with my background, I have been reading. Hey, paralegals are the backbones of law firms, FYI, and I have helped manage one. So yeah, no, I have been reading the bill and the legislation, and I was like, oh my gosh, like people don't understand how this is going to affect families and small businesses, and so I've just been really, really keeping my eye on the bills in Texas. And it was once they started doing weird wording around the public schools and even like the mandates that they pushed. We have to have a secured armed officer at every public school. Great, fantastic safety. I'm all for it. But that mandate didn't come with any funding. And so these schools that are already underfunded,
yeah,
had to
because they
show up.
haven't changed. We were just talking about that. They haven't changed the
Yeah,
funding in 6
yeah.
years.
So again, I've just been keeping my eye on these bills, and it wasn't really until it started affecting all the public schools and all the schools around us are in deficits, and it's like, okay. But my opponent is a voucher pusher, and I literally reached out and I was like, "Where do you stand on this issue?" And he was like, "I am unapologetically for vouchers," and I was like, "Heck no!" So I started as a precinct chair, and I mean, I've always done it. I'm a community advocate, right, my entire life. But when he said that, I was like, I'm going to be a precinct chair. I'm going to make sure people are registered to vote. I'm going to make sure that they're educated and understand the language on their ballot. And all year, I was like, who's running against this guy? And they would be like, nobody. I was like, okay, weird. Even on the Republican side, right? And I was like, who is going to run against Nate Schatzline? Because he's not representing our district. And so it was nobody. And as a precinct chair, I did as much as I could. But I knew that if nobody else was going to step up, he was just going to walk back into the Texas House and do shenanigans. So October of last year, so I've been campaigning a year now. October of last year, I said, put my name down. And if nobody else steps up, I will do it. But really, it's the public schools. And like I said, as a community advocate, and even just knowing that nobody really represents our district because my opponent is all fighting culture wars versus, hey, our infrastructure has not met its needs in a very long time, but you're too busy focusing on X, Y, and Z.
What? Okay, so when you oh no, we're gonna have a good conversation here.
Okay,
Okay,
good.
so to
Hype,
start
huh?
off with, um, and kind of my kids are out of school,
Yes.
so I don't have a horse in the race here. Um, but
You kind of do.
the idea that pushing vouchers is not representative of the district, that alone, like that topic, to me, I think it is. And I'll give you an alternative perspective. I can do with my money better than what the government can do.
Sure. And
You know what I
especially
mean?
since they kept it all and didn't even, we had a surplus and they
Yeah,
didn't.
they have a big surplus that they didn't
Yeah.
distribute to the smaller schools like they were supposed to. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I understand how crooked Governor A is. Like
Yeah. And I'm not
don't
going to
don't don't
argue.
don't get it twisted, but you have to acknowledge the Texas illiteracy rate is 30%.
Oh, yeah. Texas education is not anything to brag about. And that's kind of
Yeah.
embarrassing on a national level, right? We're the biggest state. We should be able to do this the best. But I want to bring it back to how you said that this doesn't affect you. It really does. Because when they start giving your public schools a bad grade, if it's not an A, B, or it keeps dropping, your property taxes are going to be affected. Because people want to move where the school districts have a good grade. That's
Which
everybody
drives
who's
up the
like,
property values. Well,
yes, yes. And
so
so if that
I have an
school,
issue with that too. I think
yes,
property taxes should only be assessed once when you buy
yes.
your house.
Yeah, yeah, and they need to be capped there.
Because it's a wealth tax, which is stupid. Like,
Yeah, and
um,
then there's like zero limits, and it goes back into like people who are even trying to afford the homes to buy,
well,
like they don't know what they
and
can
the
afford
people,
a year later if it goes up, like, and then
yeah.
they're stuck.
Well, and then the person deciding the value of the house is getting paid from the money that's collected from that house.
Yeah.
That's a
So
conflict of interest. So
yeah,
yeah,
property
it's
taxes.
disgusting.
Yeah, property taxes are irate here in Texas, and we don't dare say income taxes, which is fine, but we need to find revenue from not taxing people out of their homes. Um, so, anyways, back to the schools.
I'm actually okay with a sales tax
Mhm.
if there's a refund possibility for lower income people.
Just lower income people.
On a
Like a
rebate for no, for an income tax or for a sales tax? Yeah.
sales tax?
Yeah.
Okay.
For a sales tax.
I think you just
Um,
start getting into that like gray area, like why not me? You know, like why did they get a refund and not me? That's why I'm like,
yeah,
what's
I'll
wrong?
answer that question.
Yeah,
Everybody should pay taxes. We're being nice because they like make less money for you than you. So go away.
yeah,
Like you
yeah.
got to say no. And that's you're a Democrat, right?
Yes.
Democrats have a hard time saying no and they keep widening the net. You've got to
Yeah.
say no,
And
you
so
know?
I'm like, again, just the jobs and my being responsible. I'm very fiscally conservative. I'm always asking, like, how much is that going to cost? And who's going to pay for that? Like I'm very, very
And I
aware.
appreciate that.
Yeah, and that's when it starts going into like, these social programs will cost this much, and this is the funds that they're gonna like. So I get what you're saying. When you're a Democrat, they're usually like, yeah, let's
So
fund this, and I'm like, whoa, 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 how much is
can
that?
I give you a suggestion that would get rid of all state level taxes entirely?
What is your suggestion?
The state of Alaska has no state level taxes. Instead, they have an oil revenue fund where anybody who pumps or transports oil pays into the fund. And there's so much money left over, everybody in the state gets over $2,000 a year from the preventive fund dividends.
Hey, you're gonna have some oil people coming after you for making these comments, because Texas, that's the economy, like they've
Yeah,
let
it's
them
the
do.
economy in Alaska too, and it funds the state.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, in Texas, it just feels like, it's all corporation, no small
That
business benefits,
that
no
that that's
homeowner
great.
benefits. Yeah.
There's a trade-off. You're no longer going to pay property tax to the state, Mr. Business, but oil revenues, that is Texas's resource and you're going to pay Texas for it.
Yeah. No, I agree with that.
So and then as a Democrat, you should be able to get behind this because the golden gem of social programs is always like annotated to Scandinavia.
Mhm.
All of those programs, well, in addition to like a real tax rate of like 60 to 70%, primarily those were paid for by a sovereign wealth fund from oil royalties.
Okay.
So the people of Texas, great that you're giving us jobs and all, but
Yeah.
that
Hey,
is our resources you're taking out of Texas.
yeah.
And the people of Texas have a right to get royalties off of that, which is
Yeah.
the stance that they took in Alaska. And it's the stance that should be taken in Texas. If you get that passed, you can get rid of every other state level tax because we pump more oil than Alaska.
Yeah. I think you just gotta, convince the big boys
Now, I
upstairs that that they gotta pay. Like, hey, they were saying, pay your fair share.
Hey, they're
Um,
always but then here's the argument you make when a Republican pushes back. This is the beauty of being a libertarian. Like I'm
yeah.
eventually going to run for office as a Republican because fiscally they're more along my way. A lot of the freedom stuff, they're more with that. But then on a lot of the social stuff, I'm more with the Democrats.
Yeah.
But when it comes to how you pay for the bills, the fact that government doesn't even operate like a household is
Yeah.
confusing, much less like a business.
Yeah.
And then there's a whole lot of places where the government is in business and they should not be.
Yes.
And then they like go and keep taking back to the well. Like auto taxes are ridiculous too. Like why do you have to pay a tax on the vehicle you bought over and over and over again?
I'm just thinking about having to insure my 16-year-old son, and that's going to skyrocket her freaking insurance payments right now because insurance companies don't have they don't regulate them like they should. So what insurance companies do is have
So
rate and
you
go.
so the okay, so my response to that is applicable both to, and this is where the lawyers in Congress are a problem. So
Surprise, surprise.
the problem with insurance is lawsuits.
Kinda. I mean,
Personally negotiated settlements are not the primary outlay.
yeah,
$10 million settlements because of an accident are the outlay. Okay,
yeah,
$10 million, and in healthcare, $10 million judgments in a malpractice for something where the person has and this it's very specific. There are atrocious ones, but there's not a lot of argument for somebody who was making $50,000 a year having $10 million in damages from something.
and I just think of like all the attorneys that are making millions and millions of
Yeah,
dollars. I'm like, cool, that's driving all our rates up. Like, stop it.
tort
Like
tort
there's
reform.
again, that's a freaking
Yeah,
economy
tort
on its
reform.
own, really.
So tort
That
reform is the
Yeah,
solution for home insurance, it's the solution for car insurance, and it's the solution for health insurance.
Yes.
And why does it ever get passed? Because 80% of the members of all state legislatures and the national legislature are lawyers.
Mm,
And if they ever get voted out of office, they want to go back to work and make those millions of dollars.
yeah.
So they're voting in their own best interests.
Which that itself should be unethical, right? Be like, hey, you're not
Yeah,
going to
there
go
shouldn't be
back
a single
into.
person who practiced law voting on a bill on tort reform. Every
Yeah.
single member of the Senate and the House should be recusing themselves from that vote because they cannot ethically vote on it.
And it's like,
And then everybody else that's
what accountability committee is going to handle that? Like, hey, you got to step aside. Like, we can't get anybody to step aside.
well,
And
when I
it's,
run for Congress, that's going to be one of the first bills that I propose, that you can't vote on anything that had anything to do with your previous field of work because you're likely to return to it.
yeah, just ethics in general. Yeah. So
Yeah.
that is a good suggestion because,
And if you do vote on something that impacts your field of work, you're out of office. I also have if you vote to spend more money than we took in last year, you can't run for re-election.
so just better budgeting.
Well, if you tell
Yeah.
them they can't stay in Congress, then you either get rid of them for somebody who's going to know that's the rule and go in and try and make that budget work. And we might have to cycle a few Congresses to get there, but we will get there.
Yeah.
But I'm willing to bet the multimillionaires that became multimillionaires while sitting in Congress, and we have it going on in the state house as well. People getting rich off of a hot dog cart while they're making $7,000 a year in the Congress. Make that math make sense.
Oh, I know. Oh, I know. And it goes back to the 7,000 a year. I feel privileged just to be able to run, that we can afford for me to campaign and afford for me to be out of this area for those few months. That's why it is what it is, because usually it's just retired, older, or like you said, all those attorneys that can schedule their time away from the office. It's like you have a division on who can even be privileged enough to run.
Yeah, I'm
Right?
lucky. I'm a kept man. I got my sugar mama. No.
The
So no,
breadwinner.
the reality is I retired when I was 37, and I do this and that and the other thing, and like my retirement's long since taken care of. So all I really have to focus on is providing my day-to-day needs, because I did a really good job after my first divorce. Did a really good job locking in my retirement so nobody could get their hands on it. Unfortunately, that included me. And 10 years later, when I retired, like 30 years early, I'm like, oh shit, I can't get my own money. Um, so I kind of just scoot along, but like my property taxes are 150 a year at my house, and like my house is built, my mortgage is paid off, my car will be paid off next year. Like I don't have a lot of financial concerns. So when it's time to run, I can run. And
Yeah.
if people say, "Oh, well, why do you have a right to say on it?" I'm like, "Well, I'm not even going to talk about education, because education doesn't mean a damn thing about what you know, but I got debt free, so let's do it for the country."
Yeah. Definitely.
So,
I think a lot of that goes to financial literacy as well.
mhm.
A lot of people, they see $1,000 extra in their account and they're like, let's blow it, right? Whenever we
Oh,
get
the
income
last gal,
tax.
she's been in the schools for 14 years, and I forgot to ask her, like, why don't you guys teach kids how to do taxes, how loans work,
It's financial literacy, and
budgeting?
it's not a priority, but
Oh,
so, and then
yeah.
it goes into culture as well, like did your parents know about freaking trust funds? Like mine didn't, mine luckily, so my parents are from Chihuahua, Mexico, and my dad got
Mhm.
his citizenship in Oklahoma in the 80s through the Reagan immigration reform. So I was born in Oklahoma. But they didn't have
Okay,
credit
I have
cards.
to say to my audience, you cannot vote for this woman. She's from the birthplace of those demon dogs. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Hey, I
I'm
was
kidding.
born
I'm
in
kidding. I'm kidding.
red dirt in America, okay? As American as they come.
No,
Um,
I was just teasing, because oh my god, Chihuahuas are yappy, but
no, it's okay.
it's actually a beautiful area, and I've been to a couple of the old temples over there.
Yeah, I don't know if you've been to Tahlequah, but they do like tubing down. Okay, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Anyways, back to my thing. So in Mexico, they didn't have credit cards or anything like that up until most recently, right? So my parents were very, very fiscally responsible. It was almost not all cash, but you paid your bills before you went and splurged. And so when you grow up with family like that, then you kind of understand, hey, we need to have the money before we're spending the money. But now I think the culture is like, hey, I got a credit card, let's go max it out, and then not really understand, the rates that those credit cards come with or all the responsibilities. So I also think, like I said, it's a cultural thing. Like if you grow up in a household where your parents teach you a little bit of financial literacy, or even just watching what they did, then I think it sets you off on a different path. And I
Sorry, my
think,
dog decided he needed to join the party.
oh, it's okay. I don't have any dogs anymore, but we love animals. Anyhow, so I don't know what got us off on that tangent about being.
Well, no. So, and I think it's funny. So, you want a little rabbit hole fun?
Sure. I'm like, yeah,
So,
Google something
let's see
later.
here. What's the best thing for the government for people to keep working and paying taxes as long as possible? And what's the best way to do that? They make bad investments for their retirement, and they rack up a bunch of debt so they can never afford to stop working. My golly, I think we have a strategy to keep people working for 80 years.
It's that workforce. And also just like we were talking about the corporations earlier. Last year there was a proposition for us to have subsidies for like the energy companies. I'm like, why the heck are we subsidizing them? Like, they got money. Why are we subsidizing?
Yeah, they should be paying the state, not the
The
other way
language
around.
was confusing, and so people were like, yes, and I'm like, it's not good. Like, but it also
I'm
goes back to like,
I'm opposed to subsidies 100%. Private
yeah,
enterprise should not be given government money because it's not the freaking government's money. It's my money. Why do I need to give money to a big corporation? If they
yeah.
want their money, they can make a product I want to buy.
Yeah, and so this goes to, my parents, their water and electricity in Mexico right now, they will pay like $30 for like 6 months for water,
Mhm.
and they pay maybe $40 for like 3 months. I'm like, how are they getting charged that much? And our electricity bill is like $300 a month. Our water bill is atrocious because we have to keep up with the Joneses and have green grass, or else we look like the garbage house on the block. Like,
Your
but
or you get the flip side, like the last girl was talking about their HOA won't allow them to water the lawns, but now they're being fined $1,500 a month because their trees are dead because they can't water them.
Well, the city of Fort Worth sent us a letter saying you guys are watering too much and we're going to fine you because, and I was just like, we haven't changed anything. Like, it set them on a system. So what I'm saying is, why is it so much more expensive to live and breathe here than it is? I'm not going to call Mexico a third world country, but other countries can afford to do it better. And then we're here subsidizing those corporations. I'm like, no, there's like something broken in the chain here, because there's no way that we're paying so much more and still giving them our money to function.
Okay, so
Um,
you ready to have your mind warped by the person who actually went to school for accounting?
yes.
Taxes.
So, or,
So taxes. So every wire that's out there that transmits goes from a raw material to a metal to little wire threads
mm,
to a plant that makes them into actual coated wire so they can be strung up by crews. Every single one of these businesses is being taxed. So if you have a 10% tax on them, once it makes 10 stops, you've got 100% tax. They
yeah.
don't do that in Mexico.
Yeah. They just kind of handle it for the residents, take care of
Yeah.
it.
So
Um,
and that was why our tax system worked beautifully for 150 years until Roosevelt decided he was going to keep the war tax in perpetuity, and we're now still paying the employment taxes.
yeah.
Prior to that, it was strictly 100% tariffs. So
Yeah.
so that's part of the problem with the expenses. Another part of the problem is um
Nobody regulates
refining
ERCOT.
capacity. So the reality is wind farms and solar panels
Mm,
produce energy more expensively. They do.
mm,
It
okay.
costs more to get them up. Their lifespan is shorter, and then they have to be replaced. So while the energy they're producing is cheap as they're producing it, when you average out the cost, it's like 5 times more expensive.
So
And that's not it.
it's costing us more for them to save like on what it looks like they're saving on a daily basis.
hmm And then all of the production of the parts to replace the parts that break constantly creates more pollution than if you had just used fossil fuels to generate the power to begin with. And there are two net zero ways of producing energy, and they are nuclear and
Mm,
hydroelectric. We don't have a lot of uh we don't have a lot of big my brain's like freezing on me. We don't have a lot of big rivers.
oh yeah.
So the hydroelectric issue is kind of an issue. But we have a ton of space where we can build a lot of nuclear power plants that are nowhere near people.
Yeah.
And yet we have how many nuclear plants in Texas? I've
I
never seen one.
I was gonna say I don't think any. Hey, but you say that we're nuclear in Texas, and I'm like, we can't handle that responsibility. Like, I just feel like we
Well,
would
no,
need
so we have an advantage that other states don't. We
the
do
land.
have broad areas that don't have earthquakes where we could store the waste.
Yeah.
And they are now like beginning to work on bacteria that can actually eat nuclear waste. So eventually technology will catch up to that problem, but
Yeah.
it is the safest energy production method that we have.
Hey, you say we don't have earthquakes, and I just think of like the drilling, and obviously they haven't said drilling causes earthquakes, but I just feel like since we do so much drilling, it
You're
would,
talking about hydraulic fracturing.
yeah. So,
So the issue with that is what's pushing the oil out of the shell, because they're like, oh, you're taking all that oil out of the shell and now it's unstable,
mhm,
but they're replacing it with the water sludge.
yes.
So they're filling the same space with the same volume of liquid. So you
Yeah.
get like the
But then
so
you have those orphan wells that nobody's taking care of. I think
yeah,
it's responsibility and accountability. Like, let's hold these companies and corporations responsible and accountable for the job that they're doing.
yes. Well, and then the other issue that we have is like for the energy expenses, most of the oil that's produced in Texas can't be refined here.
Oh, what are we doing with
So
it?
we sell it on the international market and then we buy oil from other places that our refineries can handle.
Hey, you said
And
international market. I thought you were going to say on the internet. I was like, oh God. I
no,
mean,
so then what happens is like the oil companies don't want to invest the billions of dollars that it costs to build a refinery,
mhm.
because whereas China decided they needed a new refinery and they built one in 3 months, it takes at least 2 years to break ground in the US.
Oh, wow. Yeah,
By
red tape.
so by the time they complete it, they may get their project shut down because the new administration gets elected.
Yeah. And really just all the money coming.
Like
Yeah.
the pipeline that the company spent millions of dollars to bring us extra oil to lower our cost here, coming from Canada, got shut down.
Yeah.
And then like when you factor in environmental concerns, we have the cleanest energy usage in the world,
Mm.
and we're not the main producers of pollution. China and India are. And
Yeah.
they don't have our standards, and we're not going to get them to our standards, because guess what? If I can throw a million cubic tons of carbon into the air and my child has a good life, I'm throwing that carbon in the air. You're not going to convince poor people to not be poor, and that's what fossil fuels do, is raise people out of poverty.
Yeah. But you're cutting corners. How you're saying if you can do it, you're going to do it.
No, I'm not advocating that. I'm just saying like the poor countries that are
Yeah.
actually the polluters now, not us, because we capture as much as is possible, and we will keep getting cleaner as the technology evolves. You can't force the pace of development of technology,
Yeah.
but our technological advancement is ridiculous. And yeah, of course, like the companies, they kind of have this idea that they want to be as clean as possible because they want the support of the people around them, because the people around them are their workers. If their workers get sick, they're going to blame the plant.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? So the
Like
idea that they're just going to go, well,
cancerous, whatever.
yeah, exactly. So the idea that they're going to just go willy nilly, that's not actually how business works in the United States. But it's easy to villainize the corporation. But every big corporation is literally just a small owner, a business owner that succeeded.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, that's a fact. We vilify corporations, but all that it signifies is the American dream works. And 100 new corporations like cross $1 million every year, which means that's 100 new people that made the American dream work for them. So why are we throwing obstacles to corporations? The market's going to decide whether the company should exist or not. So let the market decide. And if everything that the government meddles in gets more expensive, because every regulation we also throw on a fee. Well, guess who's going to pay that fee? Not the corporation, because the corporation has no money. All the money comes from the customer.
Mm,
So if you charge this to the company's now charging the customer.
yeah.
So, and then the other part on the renewable energies, all that energy has to be stored and then converted. So you need power inverters to convert it to alternating current from direct current. And then when you store it in the batteries have about a 3-year life cycle. So that's a most expensive part of the system is the batteries, and you have to replace them every few years.
Yeah. I think I'm just coming from like Oklahoma and Kansas. There's so many windmills, and like nobody has complained about them ever, right? That's a source of energy and how they're doing it other because it's the plains, they're super windy all the time. But here in Texas, as soon as you say windmills and solar, and like you're saying, you know, it could be more expensive or it is more expensive. But here, I just don't feel like we've diversified our resources as well as we could have.
So
And
there is one major difference between Oklahoma and Texas.
mhm.
What's the population of Texas?
Oh yeah, millions versus the little panhandle area of Oklahoma, and
Yeah,
they're still
4 million in Oklahoma. There's more people than that in the San Antonio metro area.
yeah.
So that's the difference.
That
Um,
less people are complaining about the windmills, or
well, there's not people to complain.
mhm.
The play, and I don't think people complain about the windmills, but it's the push that you gotta.
Oh yeah, no,
When
I'm
the
saying
tech,
diversify.
yeah,
Let's see what's more.
when the
Yeah.
technology is not there, Oklahoma has higher energy rates than we do, and they're using all renewable energy that's supposed to be free.
Mm,
You know what I
yeah.
mean?
Yeah, yeah.
So, and well, and
Naturally
they're not using
provide.
all. So, I don't know the exact percentage, but they still have coal and natural gas power generation
Mhm.
because the sun doesn't always shine and the wind doesn't always blow,
Yeah,
which is where the storage comes in. And no matter what, if you're storing energy, you have to replace the batteries because batteries have short lifespans because the technology is not there.
yeah,
You know what I mean? Like electric cars. We've had the technology for 50 years. Nobody could make it effective until Tesla managed it. And why did he finally manage it? Because the battery technology advanced.
yeah. And then you got all the issues with the charging it, whether you have it installed in your home or you gotta go find a
Yeah.
supercharger. So we're still I like yes, I don't care who buys a Tesla, but I still feel like there's like that barrier for anybody who wants to
Oh,
have
I
an
have a
electric.
problem with anybody who drives a Tesla because of the biggest jerks on the road.
My neighbors are super kind, and they were on the list for the
How
truck for like 3 years. And so
how
I don't,
often
and
are you around these Tesla drivers though?
I mean,
Like on the road.
yeah, you know what? In North Fort Worth, I mean, there's Teslas, but they're not everywhere. I don't feel like they're, and probably I don't know where. Oh no, you did say where you're at. Where'd you
Well,
say you're
I'm in Crockett.
at?
Before
Okay,
that, Livingston, but I worked in Houston every day.
okay, that's what I'm saying. I'm
And
like,
every person who drove a Tesla, a BMW, or a Mercedes drove like a jackass.
it
Every single
said
one.
like the ego of driving that brand or
Hmm.
something. Anyway, so my neighbors have the Tesla truck and they're super kind. They're both veterans, and when they
Hey,
ordered that,
I love
y'all
that thing. It's
deserve it. Y'all deserve something nice, whatever you want to spend your money on. Like you do that.
exact. Well, and that's the point. Whatever you want to spend your money on, but not everybody can afford an electric car. We're nowhere near getting them affordable for the average person, and
And
so
they
all the
have
put
all the
it's
battery
it. Yeah,
issues.
my issue isn't the involvement of solar and wind power. It's the push to push it faster than the technology.
Yeah. And
And
I'm not saying that.
all these solar companies, their assets get bought by the oil companies when the companies that built the wind farms and the solar farms go bankrupt because you can't make a profit.
Mhm.
And that's
No,
what
yeah.
happens.
Yeah, and I don't ever I've never said, you know, let's stop using fossil fuels. I've just always said if we are going to transition, it needs to be slow and
Hmm.
steady because nobody needs to lose like everybody's like we're going to lose these jobs. It's like no, no, no. We're going to use the training, you know, whoever wants to switch to whatever side, but you still have to train all these people to do the different jobs. So I don't want anybody to ever be out of a job. I want them to get trained and be what are they like cross training, right? If you work in an office, it's like you can work the
Hmm.
front, you can work the back. Like we need to cross train as many people as we can and diversify. And again, just what is making more sense for us in Texas.
Okay. When you get to Congress, can you do something with me for me?
I'm gonna stay in Texas,
No,
honestly.
no, no. But can you do something for me when you get to the state house?
What's up?
Uh, make hotel fees and resort fees a percentage of the rate.
Like already included into the fee
No, no. Make it based on the rate of the room.
instead of like their own.
Yeah, because it's a set dollar amount. So you get a $30 room and you're paying $47 in taxes.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.